At the same time, according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on a short list with a lot of interest in another quarterback in the first round, a guy that a lot of people are pounding the drum for. A lot of people are sitting around saying, okay, here we go. This is a name some are on board with, some are not. I have argued against heavily during this draft cycle or scouting cycle, but I could be wrong. And while I sit here with some opinions, it doesn't mean that the Pittsburgh Steelers are listening. In fact, the Pittsburgh Steelers rarely listen to Noah Strackbein or anybody else, no matter how hard I try to tell them that I know what I'm talking about once every 100th time. And maybe they should listen every now and then. According to Ian Rappaport, quote, the Steelers are among the teams who have spent a lot of time with Jackson Dart. The Saints have also spent a ton of time with him. The Giants and Browns, those are the quarterback teams. Those are the teams who would consider him. The Pittsburgh Steelers on a short list for Jackson Dart, the Ole Miss quarterback that has a first-round grade. And I think our next topic of conversation, which will be who got invited to the NFL draft, kind of hints that Jackson Dart is much higher on the board than we anticipate, than a lot of people think, that maybe quarterbacks are going to come hot and heavy when the first round begins. And Jackson Dart is the name to watch for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, I'm not super high on what Jackson Dart brings. I think he's got a good arm, but I think he played in a very easy offense. I think that he's athletic, but there's nothing about that athleticism that says he is top tier athlete. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong, but it's not Jalen Milroe. It's not Cam Ward. I don't think there is another name in this draft that meets that criteria, to be quite honest with you, but I'm not very high on the quarterback class in this NFL draft as a whole. But Jackson Dart is a guy that the Pittsburgh Steelers are spending a ton of time with. That comes after they invited him to a pre-draft visit where he showed up at UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. I had to send somebody down there to confirm that it was real because I was in good old Fort Lauderdale, was not expecting Jackson Dart to be in the building on Friday afternoon. He was. Look, the Steelers have stayed consistent with Jackson Dart, and you have to take that into consideration. You have to look at that realistically and say, there's got to be something there if the Pittsburgh Steelers are spending this much time with a prospect. If they are this into Jackson Dart, maybe it's time for us to listen. If they are on a short list, maybe it's time for us to listen. Now, I don't expect the Cleveland Browns to draft a quarterback before the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't expect the New York Giants to draft a quarterback before the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think both of them are going to look at other positions and say this draft class is too strong up front for us to take a shot at quarterback. We have backup plans. Those backup plans are not very good. Shout out former Steelers Kenny Pickett and Russell Wilson, but they're backup plans. And the teams are going to look at that. The New Orleans Saints, I think, are a threat for the Steelers and any other team looking at Jackson Dart because they are going to want a quarterback. Derek Carr is on the last year of a deal that nobody expected him to actually be a part of, which means that next year, chances are he's not in New Orleans. They're going to need another quarterback. They're looking young. Spencer Rattler is not it, but they'll continue to develop him. Jackson Dart feels like a name that in the middle of the first round there makes a lot of sense, where the value starts to reach the upside, where you're looking at it going, all right, look at a lot of these guys are off the board. A lot of these big superstars are no longer here, and we have other positions of need, but paying a quarterback next year is not something that we can do. And now we have Kellen Moore as a head coach who develops quarterbacks, who does a really good job developing quarterbacks. So we're going to take a shot on a guy like Jackson Dart and hope that our offense is good enough to make it easy on a first-round quarterback in a year, because this year Derek Carr is our starting quarterback, and that's not going to change. I could see the New Orleans Saints being a challenge for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But if he gets past New Orleans, the Steelers are the next ones on the clock that would even consider a Jackson Dart. And I don't know if they're all in on him. I don't know if it's a smokescreen. I wouldn't rule out a smokescreen. I really, truly would not. I mean, the Steelers were all in on Malik Willis before they drafted Kenny Pickett. And don't get me wrong, that was not they had interest in Malik Willis. They had a ton of interest in Malik Willis, but they went with Kenny Pickett. And in this draft, maybe they have a ton of interest in Jackson Dart, and they go with Jalen Milroe, who got invited to the NFL draft.